This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, so there is a difference between the word gut, G-U-T, gut, and the human digestive system. And what is that, Hamza? You tell me.
So the human digestive system is basically, it consists of the alimentary canal that leads from the mouth all the way to the anus. The food is digested and absorbed throughout it. Now, I'm not exactly sure about the gut, miss, but I do believe the gut is the gut includes the small intestine and the large intestine, where the food is excreted through, right?
No, the gut actually means the tube, the long hollow tube starting from the mouth till the anus is the gut, right? Now, if you just follow that tube from the mouth till the anus, then you will see that liver and pancreas are not a part of that hollow tube, right?
Oh, miss, is the duct and elementary canal the same thing?
No, this is the word that I was using, gut.
Okay.
Yeah, gut and alimentary canal. Yes, gut and alimentary canal is the same thing.
Okay, yeah, then it makes sense. Okay,
Ah,
yeah. Now I knew what elementary canal is. I didn't know the word about duct.
okay,
Gut, sorry.
gut.
Yeah, I got it. So pancreas and liver are not part of the duct because it starts from the mouth, it comes down to the stomach, and
Hmm.
then if you can see the tube, right, it starts from the mouth, comes down esophagus, and then it connects with the stomach. And then if we look at the stomach, it directly leaves the stomach and enters the small intestine, uh, where the duodenum is present, and then it follows to the large intestine, and then through the rectum and the anus.
Right? So you can see my highlighter. So if we just
Yes.
follow this hollow tube, we will see that the yellow colored organ, the leaf-shaped organ, which is the pancreas, and this reddish organ, which is the liver, is not a part of the alimentary canal or the gut or the gastrointestinal system. You can call it, in fact, when you go to hospitals, when doctors are talking to each other, you should always very closely, try to observe how they are, what kind of language they are using. So they use the word GI. They say, okay, this man or this patient has a problem in his GI, or his gut is affected. And in fact, it is said that if your gut is healthy, you are healthy. And if your gut is unhealthy, you are unhealthy, because every disease, every problem arises in the gut. And then it can go, because if your digestion is poor, if your absorption, assimilation, ingestion is poor, it's going to release toxins, and those toxins can end up anywhere. They can end up in your joints, they can cause you arthritis, they can cause you autoimmune diseases, so on and so forth. So basically, I would say in one word or in one statement that a healthy gut means a healthy body, right? Now, you have, yes, we will say liver and pancreas are not a part of the gut, but yes, they are a part of the human digestive system. Why? Because they play a role in digestion also and assimilation also, right? So, if we want to divide all the various processes of whatever is happening in the human digestive system, we would say that first of all, we ingest food, right? We take it into our mouth, we break it physically into small pieces, and then we allow the food to pass down into various organs where it is chemically digested. The word digestion means breaking down of food from big molecules to small molecules so that they become soluble, they become small, and they can be easily allowed to pass through the partially permeable membrane. After digestion is absorption, and then there is assimilation. To assimilate means that, let's say that you've eaten a sandwich, and a sandwich had starch. Your mouth broke down starch to incomplete digestion to maltose, and then that maltose was further broken down to glucose inside your intestines, and then it was absorbed into the blood. Now, and if your body doesn't know what to do with this glucose, it means this glucose is of no use to you, right? So it's a must that your body should assimilate that glucose molecule into it by using it for cellular respiration to make ATP, and then if extra is left, sending it to the liver so that it can be stored as glycogen. Once that is done, of course, there will always be some material inside your digestive system which will never be absorbed, and much of that is fiber. So that fiber, together with some undigested materials, will be passed out of your digestive system as a solid waste, which is feces. Is that understandable?
Yes, it is.
Okay, we did all this, and just recapping it, we studied about what's actually happening in the saliva, and stepwise manner, what is the role of the saliva and the salivary amylase and your tongue and your teeth and all. Then we discussed about the esophagus. Does esophagus have any enzyme? Yes or no?
Esophagus, no, it doesn't, miss.
So then what's the role of esophagus?
Esophagus' main role is to simply transport the bolus downwards to the stomach with wave-like contractions.
Exactly, with wave-like contraction. So there goes your long, narrow pipe, which is the esophagus. It is just a passageway to transport the bolus of food down into the stomach. Do we have a sphincter muscle at the junction of the esophagus and the stomach?
Sorry, miss, do we have that?
Do we have a sphincter muscle, sphincter muscle at the junction somewhere here? This is the junction of the esophagus and the stomach. So do we have a ring of muscle which is found at the junction of these two organs? Yes or no?
Uh, ring of muscle. I don't think we do.
Yes, we do have it. Because you see,
What's
your esophagus is sending food down over here, okay? And the stomach, the pH of the stomach is acidic. So we don't want this acid to go upwards. If it goes upwards, it's going to burn your throat. And all of us might have experienced, and I'm sure you also must have experienced it when you eat something late night. We go for a late night dinner or a wedding, and then when you have had food very late in the night, and then you go to sleep. When you wake up, you have a burning sensation in your chest or maybe in your throat. It's just because that since you've eaten so late and digestion began while you were sleeping, and when we sleep, we are in a, for example, see, when we are sleeping, when we are standing, we are in this position, and when we are sleeping, we are in this position. So what will happen when we are sleeping? The acid will go up like this, isn't it?
Yes, that's true.
Right? So that's why we need to have a sphincter muscle or a ring of muscles over here so as to prevent the reflux, or prevent the backward movement of acids into the esophagus. Just as we have a sphincter muscle over here, we also have a sphincter muscle at the junction of the stomach and the C-shaped organ, which is the duodenum. Because again, why? Because the food needs to stay for 3 hours in the stomach. It needs 3 hours for the food to be broken down and digested inside the stomach. So we need something to, stop the food to move in the forward direction. It will easily move, right? By slipping or just by gravity. So we want to stop that so that the digestion is complete. And besides that, there is a difference in the pH between the stomach and the duodenum. For example, this C-shaped organ is your duodenum. The pH of duodenum, the one which I have highlighted right now, is slightly alkaline, whereas the pH of stomach is acidic. And we don't want the acidic and the alkaline environments to mix up with each other. Of course, the acidic environment has a different enzyme working over there. The alkaline enzyme environment has a different enzyme over there. So every enzyme, you've done enzymes with me, isn't it, Hamza?
Yes, I did, miss.
So all enzymes have their optimum pH and optimum temperature. So another disadvantage, I'm actually discussing some suggest kind of questions with you. Another disadvantage of not having a sphincter over here between the junction of stomach and duodenum is that it will interfere with the enzyme activity. It will not allow the enzymes which are working in stomach to function properly, or the ones which are working in the duodenum to function properly, right? So
Okay.
this is about, and then I also, if you remember, had made a summary diagram about what is happening inside the mouth. So this was all about what is happening. Okay, question. Is starch digestion completed in the mouth? Yes or no?
Could you repeat the question once more?
Is starch digestion completed in the mouth?
No, it's not, miss.
It's not. So then starch is
No.
digested to what nutrient in the mouth?
What nutrient in the mouth?
Yeah,
Sorry, maltose. So from
maltose.
starch to maltose, that
Okay.
Maltese enzyme.
What kind of a molecule is maltose? Is it a monosaccharide, disaccharide, or polysaccharide?
Monosaccharide. Maltose. That's a monosaccharide.
No,
No, I'm sorry, disaccharide. Sorry,
di.
disaccharide.
If it's a disaccharide, it is made up of what?
It's made up of glucose and glucose.
Very good. It's
Two
made up of
glucose
glucose and glucose. Very good. Okay. So we also did this, and then I think let's I also told you about pancreas and liver. And let's start now with the details of digestion, physical and chemical digestion. I have discussed all this with you and I don't need to go into the details. You just need to understand two things. Okay, now listen to me carefully. The purpose of physical digestion is to break the food into small particles so as to increase the surface area of the molecules. Now, we want to increase the surface area so that the enzymes can easily act onto them. Now, see, if compare a slice of bread with tiny pieces of bread. It will be easy for the enzymes to actually act on those tiny pieces of bread which have been, mixed with your saliva as compared to a whole slice of bread. So the physical digestion actually does not change the chemical components of the food. Okay, the chemical components, they remain the same, but it only breaks it into small pieces so that they can be easily mixed with the digestive secretions. If it's saliva, if it's acid, then HCl or whatever, and so that the enzymes can act easily. That's the purpose of physical digestion, right? And the purpose of chemical digestion is, of course, to bring about a chemical change. And a chemical change can only be brought about if we have enzymes. Okay, question for you. Do enzymes participate in the reaction?
A physical digestion, miss?
Do enzymes participate in the chemical reaction?
Oh, yes, they do, of course.
They don't.
In chemical reaction?
Look at the choice of my words. I said, do enzymes participate in the reaction?
You said in the reaction.
Yeah.
So which reaction is it? Physical or chemical?
No. See, what I'm trying to say is you should only say enzymes boost up a chemical reaction. They don't participate in the reaction. Enzymes are not reactants themselves. Okay?
Oh, right. Okay, I get it.
This
So
is
you're
what I
saying
mean,
the main
right?
job of enzymes is to boost a reaction instead of participating.
Yeah. Either I should use the word boost or I should use the word catalyze or catalysis, right? So they are never used as reactants. They only push the reaction. And of course, they can be reused again and again. Okay, so this table you can see, this is a very basic table that shows you the effect of digestion on starch, protein, and fat. Now, since you've already done biological molecules with me, so you know that these are big molecules, which you can see on the left-hand side of the table, starch, protein, fat, they are big molecules. And the enzymes needed to break them are amylase, protease, and lipase. And of course, we know that if we have amylase, and if the digestion of starch is completed, then we end up with simple reducing sugars like glucose, right? If we have
Yeah.
protein can be broken down to amino acids because amino acids are the basic building blocks of proteins, and also likewise, fatty acids and glycerol are the basic building blocks of fats. So these are the three standard enzymes, the names of which you need to remember as far as chemical digestion is concerned, right?
Yes, sir. Right, got it.
Okay, one very important point which is mentioned in the description is, I'm going to highlight that, and you can be asked a question about this. The question is, they will ask you, are vitamins and water, digested? So they don't need to be digested. And the reason for this is that they are very small, right? They're already very small in size. So the only thing that is needed as far as these two, components are concerned is that they're only absorbed. And the same is the case for mineral ions. So this means we have three substances. We have vitamins, we have water, and we have mineral ions. So these are the three substances which are never digested. Don't use the word digestion for them. Only use the word absorption for them.
Okay.
Right? Because students, they do make mistakes. And then, of course, even if they know that, vitamins and water are not digested, but they don't know the reason. The reason is that they are small molecules. And again, similarly, they can ask you a reason, why do you need to break these down? Because they are large molecules. Okay. If we compare their size with the size of vitamins and water and mineral ions, they are large molecules, so they need to be broken down physically as well as chemically. And now coming to the very easy part of digestion, which is about the teeth. In the IGCSE syllabus also and in the O-level syllabus also, The structure and the function of different kinds of teeth is a part of your syllabus. So teeth help with, of course, the mechanical part, right? To break the food, to chop it. We see we have different kinds of teeth. We have teeth which are used for cutting. When you want to open a pack of chips, okay, a pack of Lays, which teeth do you use? Your front teeth or your side teeth?
Uh, Front teeth are used to conduct physical digestion, right?
No, no. I give you a packet of chips and I tell you to
Okay.
open up that, packet of chips, like open the,
Yeah.
yes, the plastic wrapper. How will you open it? Which teeth will you use to open the pack of chips? The
Probably
front
my canine, because they're the sharpest. My canines, miss, the ones in the front. The
canines.
canine.
Okay, canines. Side teeth, right? The canines. So this means that, of course, every tooth has its own unique function. We use certain teeth for cutting only. We use some for crushing, grinding, and then for tearing. So we use canines for tearing. The purpose of using teeth to, physically digest the food is that they give you a large surface area. They give the food a large surface area, which makes it easier for the enzymes to work on them, right? And it also helps any soluble molecules or ions in the food to dissolve in the watery saliva in the mouth. Okay, so there are two purposes. What are the two purposes of teeth?
Number one is physical digestion. So it breaks down the teeth into smaller pieces and then increases surface area in order for the enzymes to act more effectively on like the food pieces.
And
And so physical digestion increases surface area, and isn't that it?
it all one thing is, it's written in front of you. It also helps soluble molecules or ions. Did you say that?
No, I didn't. It has
Huh.
soluble molecules or ions.
Hmm.
Wait, give me a second. Yeah, now I can see it. Helps. It also helps any soluble or ions of the food to dissolve in the water. So it helps. How does it help them? So does it break it down and then the saliva gets ingested into the pieces?
It's like this. For example, this is a piece of bread. Okay. So you are using your teeth to break it into small particles. Now, when it is broken down into small particles, it will become easier for these particles to mix with the saliva, right? Acha. Now, when it is mixed with saliva, of course, these particles, besides having, let's say, maltose or starch in them, they might be having some other minerals also, or ions or salts. So now, since this big piece of bread has been broken down physically by the teeth into small, small pieces, so it becomes easier now for all these substances which were entrapped, which were a part of this bread, to mix with the saliva and get dissolved in it. So this could only be possible because the teeth actually cut the piece of bread into small, small pieces. Is that understood? Yes, Hamza.
Yes, miss.
Your silence is telling me that it is not understood.
No, not perfectly.
Not perfectly.
Could you
See,
repeat the process once more, please?
okay, I'll repeat it once again. See, in fact, let's read the sentence once again. What does the sentence say? It says, teeth can be used to bite off pieces of food, right? They then chop, crush, grind the pieces into smaller ones. This gives food a larger surface area and it makes it easier for the enzymes to work on the food in the digestive system. Besides that, it also helps any soluble molecules or ions in the food to dissolve in the watery saliva in the mouth. See, when you are munching all the time, you are munching, you are chopping, what are you doing? You must have noticed that the more you munch, the more the food inside your mouth becomes liquidy or watery or, paste-like, isn't it? So the more you chew, and the more it becomes paste-like, the more possible it is for the soluble molecules and the ions which were inside your food, right? Inside that sandwich to get dissolved in the watery saliva in the mouth. That is it.
Okay.
For
That
example,
makes sense.
let's just think about the bread, right? Generally, we know the bread is made up of starch, okay? But besides starch, it might be having some ions as well. Maybe some salt was, of course, when the bread is made in the bakery, they use salt, they use soda, isn't it? So soda has these ions, sodium ions, bicarb ions, chlorine ions. Okay, so all these ions are also a part of the bread. They will also be, given an opportunity. Once the bread is broken down into small pieces, it will allow these ions to dissolve in the watery saliva. That is it. And chewing, munching, grinding, chopping, crushing makes it easier. Now, is that understood?
Yeah.
Acha,
Sorry?
is that understood, or still you're a bit
Yeah.
confused?
That makes more sense now.
Makes sense. Acha, okay. Now, as far as the teeth is concerned, what is the structure of the teeth? What do you mean by the enamel? What is this? You will read it yourself. You read it yourself, and I will ask you questions so that you are more alert. This is, you can see I'm scrolling pages, and then there are different varieties of teeth as well. And till just before this, in fact, finish your reading up till here, right? Don't read chemical digestion, only read the structure and the function of different kinds of teeth, and then we will have a discussion.
Right, sure. Miss, is it okay if we can quickly get a 10-minute break or something? Because I have to quickly do something. I'll be right back.
10-minute break, and then,
We continue the rest of the lesson.
but in that 10-minute break, what are you going to do?
I have to like go downstairs and do something quickly. It's related to my mom, and
Okay.
as well as my son.
And what
Uh,
about the time for your reading? How much time do you need for reading?
oh, around like 5 minutes. I'll do it. Hopefully, I finish it before 10 minutes.
Okay, okay. Come on.
I'll be right back. Sorry. Enamel are one of the most durable
This meeting
materials
is
that are
being
produced
recorded.
or found inside of an animal. But they have one weak spot, which is that they decay by acid. Now, bacteria tend to what do you call feed on or inhabit on sweet molecules or sweet substances, right? And normally they tend to stick around on the teeth. And while doing so, the bacteria tend to release an acidic substance, which then decays the enamel.
Exactly. And the decay of the enamel is actually what we call, we use this word, we use dental decay, or we also use the word, I'm sure you must have heard, caries. Have you heard caries?
Almost.
No? We say, okay, you've got dental caries or you've got dental decay, in which
Is
you're,
it
yes,
is it cavity?
yeah, cavity.
Oh, okay.
Cavity, and in Urdu we call कि आपके दांत में कीड़े लग गए हैं, but this is not a कीड़ा actually. It's just that the bacteria is feeding on sweet food. Especially it's
Oh, right.
happening in children, small children who haven't been, um, given this the habit of regular brushing of teeth, especially after they've had chocolates or sweets, and then they have these sweet things, and then they go to bed without brushing their teeth. So a whole night time is more than enough for bacteria to come and have to feed on those sweet foods which are left on the teeth. Bacteria will produce acids, and these will dissolve your enamel and they will destroy your teeth. Okay, so these are the various parts of the teeth. And Hamza, I'm sure that you have no problems as far as these various parts are concerned. Or do you have any problem?
No, I'm fine now. But my one question is, it's just a general question. You know
Mhm.
how sometimes there are black substances that are found in the teeth?
Yeah, yeah.
What are those?
That is dental decay.
Wait, what?
That is dental decay, the one which we just read right now. Let me go back to the previous page. You said that when somebody takes sweet foods, okay, and doesn't brush the
Well,
teeth, this is what
because
bacteria. The black thing is the dental decay. Your teeth are
But my
decaying.
brother didn't have dental decay.
Huh?
I don't think my brother had dental decay. Like he had some bad black things that were on his teeth, right? But I don't think they were dental decay because we went to the dentist and he didn't classify it as any type of decay or something.
What did he say then?
I don't remember, but he said they're kind of some kind of stains.
No, 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 no. Stains, of course, it's your younger brother, right? Stains can only happen in people who smoke. Of course, he doesn't smoke. Now,
No.
might be that it's a very early stage of dental decay. Okay?
Oh, right.
If anybody has stains on his teeth, there can be two reasons, right? Either the tooth are decaying, or these stains are because of smoking, nicotine stains, or tobacco, or any other chewable substance, any drug abuse, whatever, substance abuse. It's that it destroys the teeth. Acha. And yes, what do you need to know as far as this structure is concerned is that you will be given this diagram in the exam and you'll be asked to label it, so you should know what is what. And then we move on to this, in which different varieties of teeth have been told to you: incisors, canines, premolars, molars. So what is expected from you is that you should know how to recognize various kinds of these teeth, and you should also know their function, right? So this diagram is, I think, more than enough for you, in which, yes, you should know how the incisors look like in their front view and in their side view. And of course, canines also in their front and the side view. And as you told me, what's the structural difference between the molar and the premolars? So molars have two cusps, and premolars have two cusps and these ridges, which are known as cusps, and molars have four of these, right?
Mhm.
That is it. Okay. So we are done for this. And now we begin with chemical digestion. So go through this table, Hamza. Go through this.
Okay, Miss, I have one question. So while I was studying about digestion in the book, right? Uh, there was this part which said that pancreas tend to, what do you call it, excrete, wait, not pancreas, sorry. Liver, yeah, liver tend to excrete this substance called bile that emulsifies fats, meaning that it breaks down fats from larger pieces into smaller pieces. So is that an example of physical digestion?
Hamza, can you give me a minute, beta?
Sure, take your time, miss.
Okay. Yes, Hamza, you can repeat your question. Yes, Hamza?
Sorry, my mic was muted. While I was reading the book, right, there was this part that included that the liver produces a substance called bile. And
Mhm.
then what happens is that the bile emulsifies the fat, right? So does
Mhm.
that mean that the food breaks down fat from larger pieces into smaller pieces and is therefore an example of physical digestion?
Yes, very relevant question asked. When bile breaks down big fat molecules or globules into smaller ones, that's physical digestion. And it's a very specific kind of physical digestion, which is known as emulsification, basically.
Mhm.
Bile doesn't have any enzymes at all, right? If we compare bile with other secretions like saliva, stomach acid, and intestinal juices, bile doesn't have any enzymes at all. But the question arises, why does liver produce bile? And what is the role of bile in digestion? So it only breaks down big fat molecules into smaller ones, so that now it becomes easy for the lipase to act on it. But the lipases are not found in the bile, they are only found in the pancreatic juice. Clear?
Okay. Yes.
Acha. Now,
So
yes.
means it's found in the pancreatic juice,
Yeah,
not the.
yeah, it's written in the table. Look at the table in front of you.
Yeah.
Your table says that amylase is produced by two places, by your salivary glands in the mouth and by the pancreas in the duodenum. Similarly, protease is produced again by two places, by two places by the walls of your stomach and by the pancreas. Whereas lipase is only produced inside the pancreas. And where does it act? It acts in the duodenum. Because you see, if you look at this diagram, let's go to this diagram to see. Look here. Now I'm zooming into this and I'm showing you the stomach and the duodenum. Okay, now look over here. This is your duodenum. I'm highlighting this in red and look at it very carefully. This C-shaped structure is your duodenum.
Yeah.
Pancreas is lying just next to it. This leaf-shaped organ is the pancreas. It's lying just next to it. The pancreas
Mhm.
has this pancreatic duct which is running through it. This duct will be pouring the pancreatic enzymes, lipase, amylase, and protease into the duodenum. It will be pouring all these enzymes. Okay, right? Stomach has its own protease. Bile is made by the liver. It is made by the liver. It is stored in the gallbladder. And then after it is stored in the gallbladder, again, you can see if you follow this diagram, you can see that the gallbladder will be pouring this bile into the duodenum again. So the reason why the gallbladder is pouring the bile into the duodenum is not because it's rich in enzymes. It's only because the bile is going to break down physically big fat molecules into smaller ones. Once that is done, the lipases inside the duodenum, which have been poured through the pancreas, will break down these fats into fatty acids and glycerol. Is that clear?
Yes, it is.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. We were here. Yes, we were here, and I think I have discussed this thing with you. This is the point that I discussed. It's nothing new. Read it yourself, these 4 or 5 lines, and this is just repetition. Read it quickly. Already had a discussion on this.
This meeting is being recorded.
Pancreatic juice, which contains alkaline substances that neutralize the acidic mixture that passes into the duodenum from the stomach. Now, generally, I'll tell you that your saliva is more or less neutral. It has a pH of 7, right? Esophagus has no secretions because it's just a pipeline that will help transfer the bolus of food from the mouth to the stomach. Stomach has an acidic environment, and that is the optimum environment that protease needs. The duodenum has an alkaline environment. Okay. Why? Because all the enzymes that work in the duodenum, which are those protease, lipase, and amylase, these three enzymes, which are found in the duodenum, they need an alkaline medium or an alkaline pH to function, right? Which is why pancreatic juice, which is alkaline itself, will neutralize the acidic mixture that has just recently been received from the stomach so that all the enzymes can effectively function, right? Enzymes in the human digestive system. We still have time, Hamza, so let's, make the most of it. You will also read this and I will have a discussion with you. Many of the things you already know.
linked together. And then when
This meeting is being recorded.
and then when glucose is joined with a fructose molecule, then it forms what do you call
Sucrose.
uh sucrose. Yeah.
Hmm. Acha, there's only one piece of information which is new over here. Could you tell me what is that as far as this page is concerned?
Uh, give me 1 second. Let me just finish reading the paragraph. Maybe it's that maltase is secreted by the cells lining the small intestine. The lining tissue is called an epithelium.
That's a new thing. So this means
Yeah.
that when we were on the previous page, when we were doing the different kinds of enzymes, where they are secreted, where they act, we did not, there was no mention of maltase over here basically. So yes, we know that the digestion of starch is incomplete in the salivary glands or in the mouth, in which starch is only broken down to maltose. So then who is responsible for completing the digestion of maltose? We have an enzyme known as maltase, and that enzyme is actually made by the cells that line the small intestine. Okay, and this lining tissue, the tissue that lines the small intestine, is known as an epithelium. And always remember that the maltase does not go into the lumen of the small intestine, it remains attached to the epithelial cells. How? It's like this. I'll just draw a diagram to show you. Let's say that this is your small intestine. Okay, okay. Esophagus, stomach. When we say duodenum, duodenum is also small intestine, and then this entire thing is the small intestine. So anywhere in the duodenum or in the small intestine, there are cells. Okay, these are cells. And these cells together make up a structure or a tissue that is known as the epithelial tissue, or you can also call it the epithelium. Now, the job of these cells is that they make maltase. Okay, they make maltase, but this maltase is only limited to the epithelial cells. You don't find maltase in the lumen. I'll just point out where the lumen is. Let's say this is the lumen. Lumen means the empty space. Okay, so the maltase is actually not made in the lumen, it is actually made in the epithelial cells that line the intestine. Is that making sense?
Yes, it is.
Let's go
So
back.
epithelium makes up the wall of the small intestine,
Huh.
and then it also simultaneously releases enzymes, maltase enzymes, in order to break down the maltose into glucose.
Hmm. Exactly.
Okay, but Miss, I have one question.
Mm-hmm.
So, so pancreas obviously, what do you call, secrete, what do you call, amylase enzymes, right, into the duodenum. So
Mm-hmm.
the process of digestion does not finish at duodenum.
Of course. Of course.
Okay, so that means that after that, they go into the small intestine, and then
Hmm.
in the small intestine, they've already entered the small intestine, the first part, then they're in the second part. So is this part called the ileum?
Yeah, this is known as the ileum.
Okay. So in the ileum, absorption as well as digestion takes place. So absorption can happen through the villi, and digestion also happens at the same time when maltase break down maltose into glucose.
Correct, 100%. Right?
Okay.
And let's look at this equation now. In the previous page, it was what was written? Amylase and maltase. So this is the equation. Starch breaking down to maltose and maltose breaking down to glucose. So if I want to write down the name of the enzymes, I will write it like this. Starch will be broken down by amylase into maltose, and maltose will be broken down by maltase into glucose. So it's like this. And then
Yeah.
this we've already done. We know that we do have proteases in the stomach. We have them in the duodenum. The protease that is found in the stomach has its own name, and it's known as pepsin. And where do we get the pepsin from? The pepsin is also again from the walls of the stomach, and they will be poured into a liquid known as the gastric juice, or you can call it the HCl, right? Gastric juice contains HCl. The purpose of having hydrochloric acid inside the stomach is to kill harmful microorganisms in the food. We eat all sorts of dirty food, the food is contaminated by so many bacteria. So HCl will kill all those bacteria. Pepsin has an optimum pH of 2, so it is perfectly suited to working in these very acidic conditions. So the first protease that the food comes in touch with is the pepsin, which is made by the cells of the stomach wall into a juice known as the gastric juice. So
So,
this,
Miss, I have a question. So,
yes,
sorry, go on.
yeah, yeah, you ask, come on.
Okay. So the name of so it says the protease that the protease that is produced in the stomach is called pepsin. So pepsin is the specific name of the protease that is produced in the stomach, correct?
Yes,
Okay. Then after that, it says that pepsin is secreted from the stomach walls in a liquid called gastric acid. So like previously, the pancreas secreted different enzymes, like all the three type of enzymes in an alkali solution or fluid, in order to balance the pH that is coming out of the stomach in the duodenum, right? To increase the pH to 8, so it works best there. Likewise, in this situation, the proteins are excreted in a gastric juice, which is hydrochloric, meaning that it'll kill all the germs and then provides an optimum pH for the pepsin to work best at.
correct.
Okay.
Yes, and just now, you said that the name of the protease in the stomach is pepsin. So then we have another protease also, because always remember that the protein digestion is not completed in the stomach. If I were to make an equation for the protein digestion in the stomach, I would say proteins are digested by pepsin in the stomach to only polypeptides. And still we
Polypeptide.
to break down polypeptides to amino acids. So the further breakdown of polypeptides to amino acids is done by trypsin, which is mentioned over here. In the second paragraph, it says the protease that is produced in the pancreas and works in the duodenum is called trypsin. Pepsin and
Okay.
trypsin both break protein molecules apart, producing amino acids. Amino acids are small enough to be absorbed, and trypsin now has an optimum pH of 7, above 7. Pepsin has the optimum pH of 2, trypsin is above 7. And as we have seen, this means that acidic contents of the stomach must be neutralized, and this is done by alkaline substances in the bile and pancreatic juice. Now remember, bile and pancreatic juice both are alkaline, whereas the gastric juice is acidic. Let's
Acidic.
finish this paragraph about bile because we already had a discussion on it, and then we end our class today. We've covered a lot. Bile has another important function. We know that fats and oils are insoluble in water. So any fat or oil in the food you eat stays as little droplets, okay, or globules. And those globules do not fully mix into the watery fluids inside the digestive system, okay. So for that, we need some other liquid in which these droplets would dissolve, and that liquid is bile. Bile acts rather like liquid detergent. Just as a liquid detergent, you use liquid detergents to rub away the greasy spots from your clothes. Similarly, bile acts in the same manner. It breaks up large drops of fat or oil into tiny droplets, which can then disperse among the watery liquids. And a mixture of tiny floating droplets of one liquid and another is called an emulsion. So what does bile do? It emulsifies fats. And
It
if somebody asks you, is this physical or chemical digestion? You will say this is physical
is
digestion. Yes,
right. So is it like then if we take some oil that my mom supposed cooks the food in, and if we take a glass of water and we pour water into it, and if we pour the oil, then we'll see that the oil does not dissolve but only floats on top of the water. So
mhm,
what this does is it basically spreads the oil and then it breaks it down into pieces, right? So
mhm.
instead of having one whole connected segment of oil, it breaks it down to several small segments. Is that what it does?
Exactly, exactly, exactly.
So it does not dissolve, it just breaks it down into smaller pieces, and then
Hmm,
it can fuse or pass through the small intestines or
hmm,
whatever it is.
hmm. Exactly. It does
Okay.
like this. In fact, let me just, end the class with this. That let's say, and sometimes you get such diagrams also in exams. So you have a beaker that has water in it and a big fat droplet. Now, fat will always stay at the top because it's lighter, less dense, so it will float on the layer of water. Now, in the same beaker, what do I do? There was this fat droplet. Now, what have I done? I have put lots of detergent, okay? Detergent substance. Now, this detergent will break this fat molecule, and such diagrams are given in exams. And then the students are asked, okay, they're asked, what's the difference between this and this? So you're supposed to say that the first diagram shows a big fat droplet. The second diagram shows that the detergent powder has been added to break down this big fat droplet into smaller ones. So then they ask you, okay, what this diagram has an analogy, or it's an analogy of what process occurring in your digestive system. So you will say it's an analogy of bile emulsifying fats. Just like a detergent powder emulsifies greasy spots, similarly, bile emulsifies fats.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, so we end our class and we'll meet inshallah on Tuesday, right?
Okay, miss. Right.
Yeah, Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.